Meantime, we are getting new numbers showing Donald Trump pulling away from the field in the key state of Pennsylvania. According to a new Wall Street Journal NBC News Marist poll, Trump leads the field at 45%. Cruz trails him at 27%. John Kasich in third position with 24%. But in Indiana, the race is much tighter. According to a new YouGov CBS News Battleground Tracker poll, Trump leads at 40% among likely GOP voters. Cruz 5 points behind him at 35%, which is within the margin of error. John Kasich trails at 20%. Let's talk about it with Larry Sabato, director of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Your crystal ball recently put out a series of 5 things that Donald Trump needs to do to win the nomination. Indiana is key to those hopes, isn't it, Larry?
It absolutely is. Indiana is critical. Now, I'm not ignoring the primaries on Tuesday night, and in fact, the first of our 5 keys was for Donald Trump to do even better than expected. He's expected to win the primaries Tuesday night. He appears to be doing just that. As you noted, he's pulling ahead further in Pennsylvania, and to the extent that we have polling information in some of the other states, he's also doing a bit better than expected. So point number 1 may be done, but I think point number 2, Indiana, is even more critical. If Trump manages to defeat Ted Cruz in Indiana, I really do think that's the beginning of the end. You will not reach 1,237 delegates for Trump until after the June 7th primaries are over. But, you know, at a certain point in a nominating campaign, reality starts to dawn on everyone, even the candidates who had hoped to win but are losing.
What about the effect of winning in New York? He was expected to win in New York. Donald Trump was. It's his home state, after all, big name identification here. But the suggestion was that winning big in New York, and it wasn't clear that he would get over 50%. He got 60% of the vote in New York. By winning big, what did that momentum, what did that, what was the slingshot effect of that win on future votes?
The 60% shocked just about everybody. As you know, John, I talk to a lot of political people, probably entirely too many for my own health. But not one person suggested that Trump would do better than the low 50s. Some had him in the 40s. As I say, it went up to the low 50s. But to see him get over 60%, 60.4%, was stunning. And I do think it has given him added momentum for this coming Tuesday, which in turn could give him added momentum for Indiana on May 3rd, just a week later.
And again, Ted Cruz has staked many of his hopes on winning Indiana. He's put a big effort into that state. If Donald Trump wins Indiana, you say that's kind of the beginning of the end for these other candidates?
I think it's going to be tough. I'm not saying Ted Cruz won't win other states. I think he'll win Nebraska. I think he'll win South Dakota. And he'll win a lot of congressional districts in California. And I'm also not saying Cruz can't win Indiana. It's close enough so that he can. But I think for him and for his campaign, Indiana is now D-Day. They have to come through. They did it in Wisconsin. They could do it again in Indiana, but the conditions here are a little more difficult for them.
I'm not as good as you are at reading your crystal ball, but if I read your roadmap correctly, you see Trump potentially going into the convention with 1,237 delegates. Is that right? I mean, just barely squeaking by.
Just about there. Just about there. But we always have a margin for error, especially this year, John.
Not going to hold you to it, but I mean, if this thing goes to a second ballot vote, that's where Ted Cruz is pinning his hopes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this past weekend, yesterday mainly, Ted Cruz picked up even more delegates that Donald Trump believes he had won in the primary. So Cruz is continuing to pick off delegates, but remember, he only picks them off as of the second ballot. But if somehow this thing goes to a second ballot, Trump will collapse. There's no question about it. And that's why Trump must get over 1,237, and he really needs a little cushion there. You know, one of those My Pillow things that are sold constantly on Fox.
Let's talk quickly about the Democrats. Is it over for Bernie Sanders?
Oh, yes. In terms of the nomination, now look, he can still have a big impact. And whether he goes along with Hillary Clinton's nomination with any degree of enthusiasm matters a lot, because his delegates are not in a mood right now to support Hillary Clinton. There could be a lot of dissension at the Democratic convention as well.
Right. We talk more about the infighting among Republicans and the fissures within the party, but the Democrats have a great big one of their own.
They have a lot of disagreements about policy issues and personalities, and I have personally heard a lot of Bernie Sanders delegates and supporters say they will not under any conditions support Hillary Clinton. Yes, I know it's April, and I know people often change their minds by November, but that's not a good initial sign. She's got a lot of work to do, and if he wants to cooperate, he's got a lot of work to do.
Larry Sabato, University of Virginia, Center for Politics. Larry, thank you.